Everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack. We also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today we are talking about the Acolyte, episode 6. Do you want to give us a little overview of it?
Now let's just get to it.
Well, I'll give an overview. Ultimately, the girls have been switched. Because of what May has done, May saw Osha on the floor, so she said, you know what, let me strip her nude, put all her clothes on me, and my clothes on her. They didn't show that stuff, so they know people will be like, wait a second, May is going too far, because you know how people get on that kind of stupid stuff where they decide, hey, if we see it, then we got a problem. So then we get past that. She's on there with Master Soul and the ship trying to go back to the Jedi headquarters. And then we also have the new, what's it like his how do they pronounce his name? The new Sith Lord guy, Q. It's like a cure. What's his name? Let me look it up. Star Wars.
Yeah, look it up.
Acolyte.
My brain won't allow me to remember this stuff for too long.
Quimir. It rhymes with.
You mean like DJ Premier?
It's Quimir, but it also it's like they took the word queer and they put some other letters in there. But anyway, this like
No, that's disrespectful to DJ Premier. They're trying to say he's gay.
No, there's a different set of amount of words. There's a different letter. You can't look at the two and just like did a quick search with the Q. And Quimir is just really cool. But I hear what you're saying, because if you say it out loud, it sounds like Premier, but it don't mean anyway like that. Anyway, basically, when Quimir sees, he obviously realizes what's going on here. He's like, he sees Osha on the floor with May's clothes. He's like, all right, this is my opportunity to find another acolyte. Like, find a new, what was they called? Like it always comes in two. So this is going to be the seduction. We knew this was going to happen, right? So basically, she's on this island. It looks like the island where Luke was in the Last Jedi, and basically, it's going to be not the same as that. Whereas obviously Luke was against training. This is him trying to do the total seduction, the last seduction, whatever you want to call it, is going on. He's walking around, huh?
Let's call it a sensual seduction.
But ultimately, it doesn't lead to, like, because you're dealing with the sci-fi stuff, and at times they don't want to necessarily do a sex scene, so they have her intimate moments with the helmet that he had. But basically, he's walking around looking cool, right? After he's done all this killing and this, that, and the other, and then he goes, takes a bath. He knows that he can sense that she's there, that sort of thing, and she's like ready to kill him, but she's not. And then we cut to the other side where Master Soul and May are together, and they're working. And of course, the tracker, who's already realized that May wasn't Osha, he's still trying to figure things out, and he gets the little gizmo thing together, and then they figure out that May is posing as Osha, and they lock her up. But then the Jedi is also coming. And they're going to come in, but they go to the planet where they see all the dead Jedi, so we actually get to give those guys a funeral. But then at the same time, we see that Osha has been totally enthralled with this guy, but it's also been shifted over to the Force. And he says, hey, put this helmet on. It'd be at one, the only thing is you and the Force. And she puts it on there, and it felt like one of those scenes that was in this movie, what was it, The Ice Storm, where was that girl? Christina Ricci puts on a Nixon mask. It's such a real ridiculous helmet. It's not a cool helmet at all. Just trying to say dark, this, that, and so the other. And ultimately, it felt like once we got to the end, it's like all that for nothing. But anyway, what are your thoughts?
Do you remember what was that comic again? The Old Guard.
Yes, yeah.
Do you remember the episode where she meets this dude who's going to be her husband? He's like naked or something. She's supposed to be tracking him down.
Mm-hmm.
She's supposed to be some bounty hunter, but when she sneaks up on him or what have you, he turns around with his weapon, both of them.
This guy. Okay, yes.
Do you remember that comic?
Yes, I remember that. We've done many reviews on that. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that's what came to mind when I saw this. They took the idea of seduction and they made it sexual. Strictly sexual. Okay, when Obi-Wan Kenobi says, that Darth Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force. Well, it's also the time in the 70s where not everything, where not everything could somehow be tied to sex. But the whole idea was that, this became, in the proper word of a seduction, this is supposed to be something that becomes alluring. Okay. And then slowly you slip, into something that you don't need to be doing, or you didn't have the intention of doing. Okay. But you were enthralled into it, slowly slipping into it. With the revenge, with the Revenge of the Sith, as much as people may want to critique it, Anakin has been over a long period of time seduced to the dark side of the Force. The Emperor is playing on his frailties, okay, on his weaknesses, on his fears, on his concerns. Up until the very end, where he finally becomes Vader. All of this has been the seduction, because you have to remember that when Anakin finds out that the Palpatine is the Emperor, that he's the Sith, the first thing he does is report it. He goes right to the Jedi and said, "Look, it's this dude over here." Again, but the seduction is complete when he's like, "Hey, look, I'm the only person who can help you. I'm the only person who can do this for you." And so you have a very complete story in terms of how this person, who is supposed to be the chosen one, has this great fall, from grace. Here, this was more akin to, hey, she just got the hots for him, and because of that, now she's a Sith.
Well, that's definitely that. I always took to when I first saw it, when he talked about Darth Vader, was the thing of having, good kid, and he likes the fast life. Like, so, like, there is the thing of Anakin doing this, that, and the other, which is what they played out. But then there's also the basic thing with Obi-Wan when they initially did the movie was, hey, this guy just, wanted to saw, boosting, whatever you want to equip the Jedi equivalent of it, whatever it was to be cool, like that sort of thing. He's gonna go that route. He didn't care about it, and he did, it cost the Jedi their lives because of that sort of thing. I didn't really take it in to how they played it out. I went to the original thing of it, but there's two ways. Your way,
Well,
that way makes sense. That way, what I'm saying, that way makes sense. And then also the thing, the thrall of not being sexually, but just saying, hey, this is the fast lane, but it leads to death. All these crimes that lead you down the path to say that this person just enjoys this terrible stuff. So that's sort of thing I wanted to see. And then this doesn't give us either of that. So keep going. What were you gonna say?
No, well, because if you go by the original movie, we just have Obi-Wan Kenobi's words,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and we just have Obi-Wan Kenobi's words, and we see Vader later on. So if I was just to go by his words, then I would just think that, yeah, I mean, Vader just is hungry for power. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't understand that, like, when we see Vader, we don't understand the extent of how much of the body that we see is, robotic prosthetics. We don't understand all of that until much later. Revenge of the Sith, if you will, that his legs aren't his own, his, one of his arms, all of this type of stuff. It just looks like armor, to be quite honest. So a lot of that stuff gets filled in later. But the idea is, yes, be it power, okay, or how it's played out later on, that's where their seduction is. Okay, as opposed to you show up, this dude looks good naked. Okay, I guess the Sith really got it. I guess the Sith really got it going on, and that is their own problem because they didn't develop these characters. They just wanted this guy to look cool, but we don't have anything on the part of Osha or May where we could understand why this is necessarily attractive to them. Okay, why is it? We don't get that. We get May's been gone, and she's like, oh, well, they killed everybody, and because of that, I want revenge. And even then, it's not enough to justify all the stuff that she's doing at this point, because not all these people are actually responsible for what it is. We don't see anything that leads her to that, or
Mm-hmm.
even an understanding that these people are exactly wrong. We don't even, again, this is supposed to be her master. We don't have any sequences with her, with this guy, like saying, hey, this is the reason why you need to do this. This is why you should hate these people. This is the, none of that's there. We just, we get there and automatically, she's after them. We see that before we actually see what happens to the coven. So
Mm-hmm.
we get very little with May and nothing with Osha for her to be this enthralled by this guy.
Well,
especially since she out and out rejected the Jedi.
even if the Jedi has done something terrible, like there was this friend of mine posted sent me this thing of this other show, which is pretty. They're pretty funny, and they were talking about the scene where she's May and Osha are together, and she's like, "No, I'm going to the Jedi." He said, "What if I kill you?" And they're like, that escalated really quickly. And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing that people get lost on. They did such a good job of having two siblings, just kind of being at odds and one going one way, one going the other, and fighting and being annoying, which is what kids are. To have that scene, which it all falls apart, and then we get to where we're at in this scene, which is just like, how do you get to, how do you? I mean, I know how in movies, TV, they like, we were talking about this before, they like, I was talking about this before, they like the scorpion, the frog and the scorpion. They like the idea of this evil person, but you see this other side of them. But ultimately, what you saw done with Magneto. So you have him going over there and him being pleasant, but at the same time, they're supposedly playing to the Jedi's BS of that they can't kill someone who isn't attacking them. It was just like, no, it's like if you are fighting somebody and they killed everybody, and then they say, "Hey, I'm putting down my weapon," like, and then it's a trick to lead you into another fight. This is like, no, you're still in battle. You're not in a situation where someone concedes and says, or the thing is, sometimes I think it was in Hamlet where the stepfather is praying and Hamlet is like, "I don't want to kill you because you're asking for forgiveness at this point." It's not that situation. It's a situation where he's playing to their, "Hey, I just put down my sword. You can't attack me." Like, no, we're still in battle. We're still in battle. It doesn't work that way. And none of that stuff was suggested. But now that he's being pleasant and nice, he's all got food, he's all patched up, she's patched up and all this stuff. And it's just like, all of that is a violation. It don't matter how cool it is. You had some overweight guy that put you in different clothes and all that and taped you up, you would be like, this is a violation. Me too. You'd be like losing it. But no, this guy's cool. he may kill some of my friends, but at the same time, he's not a bad guy. He wants to show me. And ultimately, they remember when she was a kid, she wanted to know about the Force, and it didn't work out with the Jedi. So now she'll learn about the Force. So then it'll be like, I don't know about the thing of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That sort of stuff that Hollywood loves to do. If you see Ben and Lost, where the guy constantly turns on everybody and they constantly follow him down the well, and then he cuts him in the legs and drops him in the well type of deals. It's like, we can't have your lead characters being this dumb just to lead to your inverted thing where you find out that Osha actually becomes the Sith Lord that's going to be shown for the rest of the time in the next movies and whatnot. But this is doing the twist so someone can say, "Wow, that was interesting. We didn't know that Osha, who's struggling, the only reason they lied to her, they kept her from using her power because she's all powerful, and now that we release it, it's like they're asking too much. It's too ridiculous to kind of put all this stuff into words when it's just to be like having a good reason for her to go left when she's shown that there's no reason. She's the person that she is now is comfortable not being a Jedi. Osha, she's comfortable working as like she's not even the full mechanic. She's like, they got a specific name for it where she's just there. Like she's out here. She doesn't want to break out of the ship that's crashing. She helps the prisoners out. She helps the Jedi out. But then now she's going to be enthralled by the dark side because she runs into this hot guy. But ultimately, even hotter is this, saw-like helmet that she wants to connect with. It just was
enthralled
really.
by the dark side. She's enthralled by the ding dong.
She went to the helmet though. The pause all along, but she goes to the helmet, and that's who she's having her like the classic moment of her holding the helmet.
That's just more metaphor. That's just more metaphor. She went to the what is it? She went to the helmet with the eye that can't see. It's just more metaphor at the end of the day.
It's the one-eyed Sith.
There you go.
But
Now
then the
you
other
got
thing
it.
is that now May was not bought in by that. She was bought into the Yoda version of the Sith to be, hey, he's bumbling, silly. Even though he could fight for 2 seconds, he's like, oh, your master, your master. And it's like, come on, like this is a surprise that's not a surprise. Like if Yoda was the crotchety little creature, we've seen creatures all around. We've seen the small creatures in Star Wars. This Yoda, what the like no, the master, he wasn't called Yoda. This creature is not the master Yoda. Oh wow, it was a surprise. It was definitely a surprise. So now you go into this is like, oh, we get this guy. We can tell that they're trying to kind of like make him a little grunge, so they're not going to reveal that he's hot later. Of course, they're going to reveal that he's hot later, and he's the master Sith guy that has all these cool things that he taught her a couple of tricks. But we don't know when he taught her those tricks, but she doesn't remember them. She didn't meet him, right? But somehow they're together, and she doesn't know that. So I'm getting too emotional about it, but at the same time, this episode was almost worse than the other one because there was less things happening and more wait till next episode. Now, a good cliffhanger has a lot of stuff happening, and then we worry about the characters till the next time we see them. Ending on her putting on the helmet and having her breathe heavy when ultimately there was a thing to Darth Vader breathing heavy because the initial thing was even more than what we see in the Revenge of the Sith. Like the idea that George Lucas had was like Obi-Wan takes him, Vader, and tosses him into a volcano, and that whatever's left is the back of the head. Not what we saw in Return of the Jedi. That back of the head that looked like a total mess. That was like we don't want to see what his face looks like because he's breathing so bad. But then, of course, they couldn't go that far when they showed his real face, so they kind of gave him a regular face. But that hard breathing and say, "Oh no, his chest is gone," but his face, we can't. People won't flip. They'll flip out if they see a terrible face on them, like a full Doctor Doom face, which is what they kind of were going for. But ultimately, any other thoughts? Because we're gonna have one other thing we have to talk about in regards to this. Anything other thoughts you have?
Other than it being trash, no.
Well, now that you said that, I am going to have to correct you on your trash statement that has been proven by a third party that
Good
it's
luck.
not trash. A third party called, what is it called? Real Good. They say exclusive data suggests. Well, let me make this bigger because we're probably tiny right now. Hold on, don't go anywhere before I get to this. It's from Screen Rant, so it's not from someplace that usually has some info. It said exclusive data suggests.
Screen Rant.
Let me finish. God damn it.
Screen.
So exclusive data suggests Acolyte is a Star Wars success story, despite the backlash. Acolyte's success is revealed through third-party data, despite the review bomb and controversy. It ranks second in streaming and engagement among Star Wars Disney Plus shows, outperforming 90% of the top 100 shows. Online backlash doesn't represent the fandom, as real good data shows positive reception among viewers. What do you say to that, sir? What do you got for that one?
I have to ask, where are they getting their numbers from?
Real Good. It's a site. I can't tell. I can't make heads or tails of it. I went to the site. I don't know what it actually is, but it looks like it can connect you to other shows and stuff like that. It's like something you put. It shows you what show. It's not like it looks like one of those sites that have free movies, but it's actually something that has shows listed, and then you go to it. I don't think that they're any kind of a real thing, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if they're real at all. It makes no sense.
See, you lost me when you said Screen Rant. Okay, Screen Rant has no credit. Screen Rant has no credibility. Sorry to say. That's one. Screen Rant will put up something one week saying Superman in his most powerful form, and then the very next, not even the next week, the very next day, we'll put up something else. This is why Jon Stewart is more powerful than Superman. They've got no credibility. It's all clickbait for the most part. That's number one. Number two, this Real Good site. This is supposed to be a streaming. This is supposed to be a streaming site. It doesn't give out number. This is the site where you go to watch the stuff. Okay, if this is a site for numbers, If this is a site for numbers, I don't know who told us to screen rant, but they may want to check again.
Have
This
you
is a
seen the
place to
chart though?
watch.
Have you seen the
Hmm?
chart though? I have to
What
play devil. I hate when people play devil's advocate. I have to play devil advocate. They're saying
data and
the
the data and the API?
yeah, like you see the
Yeah,
most
where are they?
successful show,
Where
Obi-Wan
where are they?
Kenobi.
Where are they getting? The most successful show was Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, well, I
Over
think
the
that says it all, right?
Mandalorian. Over the Mandalorian.
Well, that says it all. Okay, I heard The Mandalorian, okay, was a fan favorite show that I didn't catch up to until the second season, and it stayed that way. Okay, it stayed that way. Obi-Wan Kenobi, okay, I heard so many complaints from the first episode through to the last episode that it was really hard to break through that particular fog. The idea that somehow Obi-Wan Kenobi, okay, with all of the detractors that it had because it didn't like the characterization of the Inquisitor and Reva, was somehow, you know, I mean, this is like creating your own reality. I can crunch these numbers as long as I put this particular thing. It's like I'm one of these incels in my, in my basement, and I'm putting out these memes strictly to troll reality because I'm unhappy with my life.
Yeah, when I saw this and I saw Obi-Wan getting the top numbers, I guess engagement, it was just kind of odd. Obviously, when you had the first one, to have a first thing, have it do so well, and not only have 3 seasons, you also have it have a 3.1 seasons because it took the last 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett to save that series. Like, how do you get these numbers? So it's like, it's interesting. I think, like whenever someone tries to get a different narrative out there now, and I don't buy into the. I'm not saying that it's review bombing. You can have it. It could be that the success of the show is a success. I don't go to the Rotten Tomatoes. I don't count it as a thing of what you should watch or should, because it's basically going to reviewers, and we've seen the reviewers loved The Last Jedi and the fans hated The Last Jedi. It was, the number was so separate. It was so far away between the scale between the two of them was so far, so drastic that, and you can't count if the audience doesn't like it. That's what it is. Maybe these things have been review bombed or whatever it is, but at the same time, your enjoyment of what your word of mouth is what it is, and that's the problem with this show.
Hey,
And you,
the, the bigger problem with the reviewers, and I understand this because we've been reviewing shows for years now. After a while, it becomes a lot of the stuff is the same. It's the same. It's boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. Okay, good versus evil, fast cars, fast women. It's the same stuff. And then when you're reviewing, the people are asking you, okay, well, what's your impression on this? What's your impression on something that you've seen 150 times over? So they'll come into something like The Last Jedi and they'll say they liked it, not necessarily because it was better, but because it was different. Because it was different, or they'll applaud it because it took chances. It took chances where other stories did not because it's good, okay, because it was high quality or great story or good characterization, but because it was different.
yeah,
So I always keep that in mind. I always keep that in mind when it comes to reviews. There's a big difference between reviewing something like The Godfather, Citizen Kane, first Star Wars movie. Okay, where these are things that hadn't been done before to the level of execution and quality in those, in the aforesaid shows, rather films, where these guys are they're eating it in. They're eating it up at the end of the day. So they're like, yeah, okay, this isn't just different, it's good. This is like, taking this to a higher level. But then what happens? People, decide, hey, Godfather's good, or Citizen Kane is good. These are the type of stories we're gonna tell. And then again, you start seeing the same stuff churn out more and more and more. So when it comes time for the reviewers, okay, I do have some empathy, for them, understanding that they have to consume a lot of this stuff, and then have something to say, and then have to have something to say worthwhile about what they've just consumed, be it in the positive or the negative. That also makes when they we like the Last Jedi. I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, obviously, these guys just didn't do the same stuff, and so that's enough for them to say, hey, it was different. Went over here, or I thought, depending on the film too, because I thought films like Wonder Woman, the first film, and Predator Prey, those films got a real soft touch in terms of the initial reviewing, because they didn't want to get, the reviewers didn't want to be labeled as unsupportive of those particular films that were showcasing like the first female hero, or the first female this, or the first black this, or what have you. So that can also influence reviews at the end of the day. But you can't look at this stuff and say, well, the reviewers loved it, and the viewers overall hated it. The viewers crap bin this thing, 5 ways to Sunday after they got out of there. Okay, so with that in mind, I take the reviewer stuff with a grain of salt when the viewer response is overwhelmingly negative.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing when we get into, it's like, I think what Marvel comic books, not the movies, realize is that at some point Stan was listening, hearing people, things were factoring into Spider-Man as he was doing it. Things that they wanted explained were being explained. And then he started to realize that you can't necessarily listen to what would be the capital F fans, the one that's buying it all the time. The casual one that's picking up and going, that's your audience. So the thing is, if you have a lot of people, bloggers, that sort of thing, not reviewers, but more so the bloggers saying this is not good, that sort of thing, then maybe you can say, you can look past it and say, hey, let's just let the movie come out and see what the audience says, and this sort of thing. But this thing of trying to, I think, figure out what the voice is, there's always going to be a tone, a voice, even when there was just reviewers, when they didn't have bloggers. When the reviewers would look at a movie, say, like I always use, from the sentiment of watching the news on Terminator and RoboCop, they were pointing out the cheesy qualities to that stuff. So it was kind of like when my father rented those things, we were like, come on. Like, you really, they're making fun of these guys. We already saw the Commando, like, as kids, we were big on wanting to see Commando, and it was like, ugh. And then so Terminator comes, like, are you kidding? He's like, no, you guys are going to like this. And then it wasn't until Arnold got the guns, we were like, all right, we're in. We're buying guns. It was like, yes, we're totally in now. And RoboCop, I think we weren't in till they had the scene where, it's not RoboCop scene, but it's a scene with, it's a scene where the guy comes in and says, bees leave. Like, we saw that, we're like, oh yeah, we're in there. But the thing is like, you can't factor in all this stuff. You have to put this thing out. Possibly, the negative sentiment can turn into, like, if you've seen the Flintstones, the high five situation where it's like, high five square, like, four corners, that sort of thing that Tarantino stole. There is that sort of thing that can happen, but at the same time, you can't bank on somehow some sentiment coming out there and then it just blowing up your other thing. Because there's so many things that people found ridiculous, like Van Damme, so many action stars that came and were successful for a long time, despite the initial thing of saying this is ridiculous. So ultimately, Screen Rant, this now thing of saying, hey, it's not as bad as it was. Look, on the surface level,
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What?
Yes, it is. It's as bad as it is.
Okay, no, I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Like, you take what you have. You look like the talent.
No, that wasn't directed at you.
I know.
That wasn't directed at you. That was directed at Screen Rant.
Yeah, well, I was like, look at the talent that's involved, right? The talent. Look at the talent. Just everyone looks presentable. Even the Sith guy, all of them. The switch. Even though I didn't know they were going to switch that far into the romance thing and how an extra cool when they went from there. Like, I knew there was going to be a little of that, but then it's like, no, like, the guy is going to show his arms, all this other stuff. He's going to be swimming, and it's like, this is like Luke and Laura, like, He
It's
roughed her
not
up.
romance. It's the Blue Lagoon. You got the hots.
Moon, yes, it's like I'm stuck here with you, and it's like Stockholm syndrome, but the romance version of it, like that sort of thing. I think they also, I think post Luke and Laura, um, Laura leaves the show, and who was it? No, again, no, they were doing more Ryan O'Neal and Lee Majors, because Luke Luke has Emma Sam's new girlfriend. They're totally in love, but he has to do something else, and he leaves Emma Sam's with this guy who's a half agent, something like that, and they fall in love. And it's just like that sort of thing where he's just like, well, my boyfriend's gone, but the difference was that Lee Majors and Farrah Fawcett were in a bad way, and regretfully, you don't leave your girl with Ryan O'Neal. Like, even if you're in a bad way, you don't do it. It doesn't make any sense unless you want to break up. So anyway, ultimately, I just wanted to bring that up to point out the nuttiness of Screen Rant, that they would go in and say this is now a success, and the extreme success that they're pointing out, that it's the second most successful TV show that they've done for Star Wars so far, which is, that is just totally nutty that they would kind of portray that. And we don't know who, and it's spelled real like movie real good. We don't know where this is. Are they trying to build this firm into something bigger to say that you go into them to get the data from them because they can somehow figure out streaming, that Disney doesn't want anyone, or Netflix, none of the streaming people want to let you know what they did. They only want to let you know when they know it's a huge success and say, this is the biggest success we've had in who knows how long, but we're not showing you the numbers. Real Good has it. So, but any other last words before we get out of here?
Nah, I think we're good.
All right. So, I can't imagine what they're gonna do next on the. Well, I guess they have the Jedi coming in there. Since nothing ends on episode 7, so we won't get the reveal to episode 5 that Soul killed everyone, and then all the Jedi that was with him like, high five, you killed the Coven. They had the other joke that someone said, they said they were bad. They said that the Coven was a bad off-Broadway theater company. The power of two, like I was rolling. But anyway, Spinner Rack.
We're out.